What's up, battle brothers and sisters of the Imperium? Today we're diving deep into a game that's been on every Warhammer fan's radar since it was announced, Space Marine 2. Now, if you're like me, you probably spent countless hours trying to explain to your non-Warhammer friends why Space Marines are basically like walking tanks trying to serve an emperor who's been on life support for 10,000 years, and arguably failing miserably. But I digress. Space Marine 2, this game just might make them understand. So sit tight as we break down why Space Marine 2 is an absolute must-play for any Warhammer fan, and even why newcomers to the grimdark universe will also love it. Now, in case you haven't seen it already, I suggest you watch my previous video on Space Marine 2 just for a little more in-depth lore behind the game. But basically, Space Marine 2 picks up about 100 years after the first game left off, delivering brutal combat that really puts you in the boots of the now Lieutenant Titus, a genetically engineered killing machine in giant power armor. Now, this guy makes a Terminator look like a Roomba with anger management issues. And in case you didn't know, that's basically the baseline for Space Marines in the 40K universe. Now, this sequel cranks the dial to 11 by throwing an even bigger challenge at you, the Tyranids. Yep, those bug-like nightmares are here, and they brought the entire swarm. So why does Space Marine 2 serve the Warhammer 40K franchise so well, you may ask? Buckle up, battle brother, because we're about to break it down. Now, first off, let's talk about the world building here. Space Marine 2 nails the Warhammer 40K atmosphere. If you've ever seen the artwork or read the books, you know exactly what I mean. Everything is bleak, everything is massive, and everything looks like it's designed by a guy who thinks too many skulls is a myth. From the gothic architecture to the dark and oppressive skies, this game oozes that 40K vibe. It's like stepping into a John Blanche painting. It's grimdark, over the top, and filled with a disturbing amount of chains. The environments in this game are straight out of a Warhammer player's wildest dreams, or nightmares. It really depends on how much you've read about the galaxy's perpetual wars. If it wasn't for the fact that you're constantly running into guardsmen all the time to, really give you the scale of how tall Space Marines actually are, you would probably feel like an ant fighting other more terrifying ants. But at least you have power armor. Now let's talk about combat, which is where this game absolutely shines in my opinion. Warhammer 40K is all about massive, brutal, and endless war. And nothing captures that better than this game's combat. I mean, you're running around as an 8-foot-tall superhuman with a chainsword in one hand, a bolt gun in the other, and you're mowing through waves of Tyranids like it's Taco Tuesday at the mess hall. The combat in this game is so satisfying. When you pull off a perfectly timed execution, dude, chef's kiss. It's like a symphony of violence. And I don't mean your average symphony. I mean one where the conductor's banging a chainsword on a skull drum, and every note is a squelch of Tyranid guts. It's just that good. The executions in Space Marine 2 are so graphic that even the blood god Khorne would be like, okay, maybe dial it back a little. Well, that's exactly why we love it, right? It's Warhammer 40,000, and if you're not leaving a trail of dismembered enemies in your wake, you're doing it wrong. Another reason why I think this game serves the 40K franchise so well is Captain Titus himself. He's the ultimate power fantasy, but also a character with real depth. In the first game, we saw him as a stalwart hero, and now he's older, he's wiser, and maybe just a little bit more rebellious. I mean, getting accused of heresy would put a chip on my shoulder too. The writers gave Titus more complexity this time around, which adds some nice emotional weight to all that, alien slaughter.
We'll punch a hole in those hive ships so big you can fly a frigate through it.
It won't let that happen.
The dialogue and the voice acting in this game are also spot on. Every conversation feels like it was ripped straight from the pages of a Warhammer novel, filled with grim determination, loyalty to the Emperor, and the level of seriousness that is only matched by, well, not much else. I mean, come on, it's Warhammer. Even the cafeteria on the battle barge is probably going to have a grimdark affair to it. Alright, now let's talk about enemies. In Space Marine 2, you're up against the Tyranids, a race of bug-like aliens that are basically what happens when you combine the xenomorphs from Aliens with the Zerg from StarCraft and give them the appetite of a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle who just discovered pizza. The Tyranids come at you in waves, each one more horrifying than the last. And the game does a fantastic job of keeping things fresh. One minute you're cutting through the smaller Tyranids like they're nothing, and the next you're up against one of their massive warrior beasts that can crush you with one hit. At least that's what it feels like anyways. It's the kind of challenge that keeps you on your toes, but it also makes you feel like the Robocop Space Marine combo that you were meant to be. Just be careful upping the difficulty too far by yourself, because when you start encountering Chaos Space Marines, you're probably going to get your cheeks clapped. Now, if single player isn't enough for you, Space Marine 2 delivers an absolute banger of a time in multiplayer. Now, here's a quick rundown on everything that is multiplayer in the game. Space Marine 2 features a robust multiplayer system with two main modes that cater to different playstyles, that being PvE Operations mode and PvP Competitive mode, aka Eternal War. The PvE Operations is a cooperative mode where up to 3 players can join forces to take on various missions. And these missions fit directly into the broader narrative of the game's campaign, allowing players to team up as the Ultramarines and battle the Tyranid and Chaos forces. It also offers a ton of replayability as well. Like I mentioned, there are also competitive modes, so PvP in this game is for players who love head-to-head action. Space Marine 2 includes 3 PvP modes with 6v6 battles. These include Annihilation, which is a team death-style match mode, Seize Ground, a capture and hold mode where teams fight to control territories, and Capture and Control. In this mode, teams must secure key objectives to win. Each game mode allows players to choose from a variety of classes, such as snipers with stealth capabilities, tank-like bulwarks with storm shields, or close combat specialists equipped with powerful melee weapons. Additionally, there are extensive customization options as well, letting players personalize their Space Marines with different colors and designs. In my opinion, the multiplayer experience in Space Marine 2 gives off a really good balance between epic cooperative PvE battles and the fast-paced strategic PvP matches, making this a fantastic addition to the Warhammer universe. Another thing I love about this game is one of the best parts, I think, is how well it respects the lore. If you've ever read any of the novels or delved into the insane amount of Warhammer 40K backstory, you'll appreciate just how much the game gets it right. From the way the Marines talk about the Emperor to the way they tear through enemies, it's all done with such attention to detail. The devs didn't just slap a Warhammer skin on a generic action game. They crafted an experience that feels authentically 40K. Another great thing about Space Marine 2 is that it's not just Warhammer 40K fan service in its best way, it's also really accessible for newcomers. You don't need to know the difference between a bolter and a plasma gun to have fun, you just need to know one thing. Hit your enemy until they stop moving. Now, if you made it this far in the video, I probably sound like a tremendously big shill right now, but at the end of the day, Space Marine 2 is more than just a great Warhammer game. It's a great game, period. The combat is intense, the story is gripping, and the sheer power fantasy of being a Space Marine is worth every moment. Whether you're a hardcore fan of the franchise or you're just dipping your toe into the grimdark future, this game delivers in spades. So, here's the question. Should you pick up Space Marine 2? Absolutely. Whether you're purging Xenos in the name of the Emperor or just looking for a brutally good time, this game is a standout. Thanks for watching, and remember, in the grim darkness of the future, there is only war. And also like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Until next time, stay bolted, Battle Brothers.